My name is Rachel, and I want to welcome you here to Mums at the Table. I always love hanging out with these ladies because they're smart, they're funny, especially here, my girl Shona. How you feeling today?
I'm good.
You're good? Yeah? My namesake Rachel.
Yes, I'm here.
And Julie.
Yep.
You ladies ready to talk today?
We're ready.
Yes, I think we have some really fun topics because today we are going to get the truth on the tooth fairy, and we're checking in on your sense of humor. Also, we're talking 4-letter words, but don't worry, this is a family show, so we're going to keep it clean. No bleeping here, hopefully. And joining us later is global speaker, success coach, and entrepreneur Lisa Stevenson, who's going to encourage us on how to react in times of crisis. Now, speaking of crisis, hearing your kids swear for the first time can feel like an all-hands-on-deck moment. Leading child psychologist Anna Cohen says what happens next is all about how we as parents react. So, ladies, I want to know how you've reacted when your kids have sworn for the first time, or if you all are the ones doing the swearing.
Who's going to admit it?
Is it wrong that I can answer both? I think the first time my daughter swore, I reacted really poorly, like as in the wrong reaction.
How old was she?
2, which means she heard it somewhere. And I did laugh because I wasn't expecting it. It totally threw me. And then then I thought, heck, what do I have to do here to sort of go, no, we don't do that? Because she heard Mummy do it.
Did she use it in the right context and everything?
She did. She's very clever like that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why it was frightening and it sort of just blew me off.
Was it the first word she ever used?
No.
Oh, that's good.
That would have been an even better story. Yeah. So what did you do? Like, how did you react?
I said, oh, look, I explained we don't use that word. It doesn't mean something nice, so we don't usually say it. And she was smart enough to go, Mummy, you say it. And I said, yes. No, she was good. She was clever. And I really had to sort of get on my game. I'm like, yes, and Mummy shouldn't. And that's when I sort of started to set up my own punishment system so that they could see the same thing happening to me as would to them.
Okay, I have to dig deeper into this. What is the punishment system?
Okay, so it's not a swear jar as such, but if I swear in front of the kids and they hear me, I owe them like $2 each.
And
because I'm a stinge, that's a lot in our family.
And how many kids have you got?
3.
Wow, that's a lot of punishment.
Yeah, I know.
It's not just for the one who hears you.
Yeah.
It's not just for the one who hears you, it's for all the kids.
Yeah, because they dob.
Yeah.
I love that.
What about you ladies? Has that ever happened to you before?
Oh, Shona, come on. Tell the truth.
I remember when our eldest used one of the swear words and we laughed too.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a natural reaction because you're sort of like shocked.
Yes.
But it's funny, but it's not. And
Yes.
Yeah. So, I remember that quite distinctly.
Are you the culprit in your family? Is that where it was heard first?
Yes. I have a bit of a potty mouth when I get angry. Yep.
Yeah.
You know what's more scary to me is when I'm like watching a YouTube video or something and something comes on next. That just happened this past week. I was watching this family YouTube video and the next one, the first 2 words were super vulgar. And I just try to go la 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 la, like try to sing over it.
Don't you find TV now, the words they use on TV are a lot crasser than what they used to be?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What I've noticed with my girls as they get older, if something like that's coming on TV that they know, make me feel uncomfortable, I can hear them feeling, really uncomfortable themselves because Mum's hearing it. It makes them feel really uncomfortable.
But if you weren't there, probably.
And if I wasn't there, they probably wouldn't feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot from the music that we listen to, from TV, like it can happen
Kids
anywhere.
at school, like it is
from everywhere.
But you work on that together. And I think explaining, like my sister yesterday had her daughter come home and learn a particularly bad word. She had to explain what it was so that they knew not to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether you're filling the swear jar or you're practicing your best poker face when it happens, here's to hoping you don't have too many unspeakable moments in your house. And speaking of the unspeakable, I want to warn you first that there's a spoiler alert coming up in this conversation. So if you're all things tooth fairy, maybe you want to cover your kids' ears. I want to know if you tell your kids magical stories about things like Elf on the Shelf or Santa or the Tooth Fairy. And is it these kind of things that keep childhood fun and innocent and magical? Or do you think that this is all just, this super elaborate series of little fibs that you're going to have to fess up to later? Ladies, what do you think? Do you think, do you tell these elaborate stories to your kids or?
Yes.
I remember I was talking to my kids about this yesterday and one of mine, we tried to do the Tooth Fairy, like we didn't have Santa or anything like that. And I remember trying to do the Tooth Fairy and I forgot.
You're a bad
Oh my goodness.
I'm such a bad parent. And I sprinkled all this glitter and stuff around and he goes, Mum, I know it was you.
I was talking to my kids about it yesterday too, and I said, when did you realise that it wasn't? Because we had the Tooth Fairy, we had Santa, and they said, well, it just kind of that dawned on them gradually.
Yeah.
But I think if they haven't worked it out by the time they go to school, their friends will tell them.
Somebody will tell them.
But I think a lot of times, and I noticed with my friends, my kids' friends, they kind of knew, but they wanted to keep the fantasy going, you know, that innocence of childhood, that joy of childhood, and they denied it as long as they possibly could.
So they wanted desperately for there to be. But once you know there's no Tooth Fairy, do you stop getting the money? Because that would incentivize me to never know about the Tooth Fairy.
Oh, harsh mum. Tell him early then, yeah. No.
Sorry, I was going to say, my daughter said to me one time, how come Santa gives us all the big presents and you only give us the little ones? So in time, you know.
You should flip that. Be like, Santa gives you the little ones and I give you the big
gets
ones.
the credit, yeah.
You know, I was thinking, I was like, if dentists would kind of like rebrand themselves as the Tooth Fairy, they might get a little bit more business.
You're
you
in
know?
marketing.
Good call. I was going to say, because no one, even as adults, doesn't want to go to the dentist.
Yeah, but if you call it the Tooth Fairy.
Good call.
You know, as a kid, I was actually the one, my parents didn't tell us that there was like Santa or the Tooth Fairy or anything like that. So my cousins would always, we would tell our cousins that there was none of this stuff.
You ruined it.
Yeah, and my aunt was like, get your kids, tell them to stop ruining everything for everybody.
So what are you going to do with Jax?
I don't think that I could just lie to him and just tell him that there's this Tooth Fairy or that there's this Santa or something.
Yeah, that's the discussion Gary and I had, was do we tell them that Santa's real or not? And we just went, no, we're not going to tell them that Santa's real.
But the Tooth Fairy is?
No, well, that was just a moment in time.
Yeah,
I thought it would be nice to do the Tooth Fairy, but no.
Yeah.
We've told our kids, like we did the whole Santa Tooth Fairy thing, but from a young age they said, is Santa real? Like, they got it, and we're like, no, but it's a fun game, and you could see they still wanted to do it each year, even though they knew the truth. Like, it is a fun thing. I'm not taking that away, but I'm not taking away the truth either.
So what age were they when they started asking that question?
I think my eldest cottoned on quite early, so she was about 3 or 4 when she asked. My second one, I think she loves that whole dream-like fairy thing, and so she didn't ask for ages and sort of cottoned on when her sister sort of told her. But yeah, I don't know, who gets scarred from finding out Santa's not real? Like, how long do those scars last? Come on.
I did the same. Yeah, I was the same as you. We had that thing going, but as soon as they asked directly, it was, no, he's not.
Yeah.
You know, there was this article that said that a lady, her daughter was asking about the Tooth Fairy, and she was asking the Tooth Fairy to take a selfie on her iPad.
Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, it was so cute. Well, I was wondering, though, as Christians, like, if we say things like the Tooth Fairy or, you know, Santa are real, does that make then, you know, this thing that of, like, God, does that make him seem kind of,
That
you
was
know, maybe
always
like
my
he's a fairy
worry,
tale
and that
as well?
was part of the reason why we didn't do the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus, was because I didn't want them to come to the point where they questioned whether God was real, because you can't see him. So that was part of my reasoning behind it.
See, I guess I'm quite different to that, in that I look back at my childhood. Yes, we certainly grew up with parents that told us that Santa, you know, was real and would bring the presents and all that. But I don't feel like that has ever hindered my relationship with Christ and with Jesus. And so for me, it wasn't an issue doing that with my kids.
Yeah, and I think if the kids come to you, they ask you a question directly, you answer honestly, they'll learn to trust you.
And did your kids ever feel like you were lying to them, like by telling them that all these things were real?
I don't think so, because I think they can see, like, they question it from an early age. They know it sort of doesn't make sense, and that's why I was happy to tell them the truth when they asked. But they also still wanted to hold on to that whole Santa Claus Tooth Fairy thing, because it is fun and there's something, you know, cute about it.
Yeah. Well, you know, tell me what side you're on. Are you halfway to writing your own children's book with your Tooth Fairy stories? Are you, like me, team avoid the whole thing altogether? Let us know on our Facebook page at Mums at the Table. But now it's time for a little bit of adult magic. Do you ever feel like you want to get away? Well, G and Olive are cooking up some coconut lime rice that will make your next dinner feel like you've made a quick escape to the tropics. G and Olive, can you please show us how to bring a little bit of magic to our next meal?
Hi everyone, today we're making coconut lime rice.
Coconut lime rice. High five. I want to share an awesome recipe. This recipe is so simple, but it's going to complement any rice dish that you have. Anything you put with it. I went to a potluck recently and a friend of mine actually made it, and I was like, what have you done? This dish is amazing. She said it's the rice. So I'm going to share her tips. Thank you, Lenora. All you need is a rice cooker, and this is brown basmati. You can use jasmine rice, okay, but we like brown basmati. It tastes really good, and it's a whole grain. And you need 2 teaspoons of Celtic salt or Himalayan salt. Let's put that in there, okay. Kaffir lime leaves. These are the amazing deliciousness that just brings out so much flavour. You can only use 2 or 3 of the leaves, but you can put more. I like putting 4 leaves, whatever. A friend of mine, 2 of my friends have these in their garden, so I just go and raid it, which is lovely. Actually, Lenora's one of them. You need lemongrass, 2 lemongrass roots. So I just chop the top off and I'll bang that. Okay, you just smash it so the root's exposed, like that, right? Put that in there. Now we put the coconut milk or coconut cream. Whichever one you want is fine. This is 3 cups of coconut milk. So this rice is 1 to 2 parts. So we're doubling the liquid in this one. Oh, put some of that goodness in there. Yes, I know. And this is 5 cups of water. But if you were doing jasmine rice, you would only be doing 4 cups of water. So mix it really well, mix it round, and then we're just going to put it on. We're going to turn it on, and the rice cooker's going to do the work for you. Sorry, okay, it's okay. So we'll be back in just a minute. So our rice is perfected. It looks awesome, looks delicious. The smell is out of this world, and it's gonna blow your socks off, really seriously. So this is what the rice is looking like. In our house, we have a traditional lentil recipe that we make nearly every single week, and it just sits in the fridge. So we'll either have it on potatoes or we'll have it on rice. So now that we've made the rice, I'm gonna use our traditional lentil dish, and I'll just put some of that lentil dish on top of our delicious rice dish. And the 2 flavours together. This rice dish just goes with everything. And there you have it, deliciousness. She's in a silly mood.
Hey, I want to check your funny bone. As moms, we need to laugh as often as possible to keep our sanity. But is it possible to cross the line? Author and blogger Carrie Campakis says that humor is king in today's society, but people can basically get away with voicing any remark as long as it's funny. Ladies, I want to know if we've taken funny that little bit too far by just, as long as people are laughing, it doesn't matter if we're sacrificing people's feelings.
I read the article that she has written, and she said that she read something that another blogger had written about another blogger, and it was really, really funny. And she laughed and laughed, and overnight this lady had 20,000 new Facebook likes or friends. And she took a step back and thought, that was actually really mean. What she wrote...
the person who wrote it or the person who was reading it?
The person who was reading it and wrote about her. Yep. So, and was really mean, and made a step back and think, well, is it funny if it's mean?
Yeah. I think it was, as you were saying about the article, it was like an elf on the shelf, and the lady went really over the top. She was this overachiever in everything she was saying. So the second lady kind of made fun of it, like one of those Pinterest fails or something like that. Like, this is the overachiever's version, this was my version.
Fails version.
But I think she was a bit offensive in some of the things she said. So she was saying, like, while it was funny initially, like, did they take it that step too far, by
But it
being
appealed
mean?
to so many people. That's what I think she was saying was interesting. It appealed to so many people, and obviously we're attracted to mean funny.
Yeah.
We do find it funny.
There is a point where someone else's misfortune can be humorous, but there is a point where you go over, and I think that's a really interesting judgment that each person has to make, and you don't know if someone's going to make that judgment well or not. So I guess this might sound harsh, but this is what I've said to myself, like, offence is in the eye of the beholder. Like, I have to decide if I'm going to take that offence on and keep it in my life and stew over it, or if I'm going to move on. But as you said, this was in a public forum. It's just exploded publicly with people you don't know. That is really hard.
Yeah. So do you think you're saying it's the person who's been offended, it's up to them to decide whether or not they're offended or not?
I think at the end of the day, to move on, yes.
I think we're talking about 2 things here. I think we're talking about giving offence, and we're talking about taking offence.
Yeah.
So we can decide on what we want to take offence for, but when it's giving offence, that's when it can be tricky because we don't sometimes know.
So what about those people who don't necessarily have, I guess, that sort of personal intuition and go overboard but don't realise the filter? I didn't even look at it.
I knew it was coming.
No.
You felt tingling inside.
So do you learn by stepping over the mark and being told too far?
Yeah.
You know?
A few times I've had people pull me up and say,
Same.
you've gone too far, or you've said something you shouldn't have said, and especially about my kids, you know. And it is a running joke between my kids and I, and my husband and I. We had this really good banter in our home, and other people have taken offence by what I've said about my family or haven't said, and sometimes you just have to know to apologise.
Yeah.
Sometimes self-depreciating humour is the better. You know,
Laughing at yourself.
Laughing at yourself. Yeah.
I find
That's a skill.
That's very Aussie culture, like to kind of make fun of
Yeah,
yourself.
I've heard that.
It is.
To the point where I'm like, okay, guys, that's enough.
But hold on, we do it in New Zealand as well.
Oh, okay.
Well, you know what? We all need to laugh as much as possible, but we probably don't need to do it at the expense of other people. Humor is definitely king, but the best kind makes us all feel good. And it's not just about feeling good that's important. It's also about doing well. And we're off to learn about the ever-important topic of body safety.
Hello, I'm Laura Bennett. Yes and no, but mostly no, are a couple of the first words any child learns to say. Knowing when to use them, especially when it comes to our bodies and personal boundaries, does need to be taught. To help us with what can be a challenging subject to talk about, psychologist and parenting expert Colette Smart. Thanks for being on the show.
Hi, Laura.
This is something that can be a little bit unusual to talk about with your children. So how do you suggest we start that conversation?
So essentially, it's a conversation we absolutely must be having with our children. As parents, we can feel awkward. We come from a generation where it wasn't a topic that was easily spoken about, and we need to become more comfortable. Our children will pick up the awkwardness from us if we're communicating it that way. So we need to just jump in and start, just say it. For our little kids, for them, it's actually not uncomfortable. It's not weird or odd. They'll pick up that from you. So they will talk about it as easily as brushing their teeth or what happened in their day. There's nothing strange or weird about a child being naked. There's no sexual connotation for a child in that. So it's really just using some everyday things that might happen, whether the cat has kittens or Auntie Susie is pregnant and they want to know how did that get in there. Those are times when we mustn't, wheel spin. It's times we need to just go, okay, deep breath, let's just start talking.
Yeah, and you don't want to teach them to be afraid of their bodies or any of those sorts of things that can come from this sort of stuff. So what age do you recommend beginning these conversations?
So the minute your child can understand or even has started to develop language, it's those times when we can start to talk about my body is my body, or this is my body's private. You can teach them those kind of words. If we think about it, we teach children how to brush their teeth, when to tie their laces, how to tie their laces. We teach them some of those basic things. We absolutely should be teaching them about safety, particularly because we know about 70 to 90% of abusers are known to children, and about 73% of children don't tell somebody for the first year.
Yeah, wow.
So it's something that is happening around us, and we need to get over our own awkwardness.
And talking about your own body, there's ways where that can be a really positive thing and a negative thing. So what's appropriate to say to a child then to help explain those different kind of things?
So for young children, use picture books. A colleague of mine, Jay Sanders, just has developed beautiful resources for parents, and experts talk about a number of steps we can follow. So talking to children about private and public. What is private? What is public? What does that mean? What are my private body parts? Name them. Use the correct terms for body parts. And even self-explanatory is your mouth is a private body part.
Yeah.
I don't need to elaborate on that. And then what is safe? What is an unsafe feeling? And we can talk about when you're up high on a jungle gym and you feel like you're going to fall. What's going on in your body? My tummy feels sick. I feel nervous. I feel sweaty. That's an unsafe feeling. Your body's looking after you. Then talk about things like telling an adult if you feel uncomfortable, using words like no and stop, practicing and role-playing that, asking children who is their safety network. What 3 adults could you go to if you were feeling a little bit uncomfortable or sick or worried or afraid? Who are the people that you could go to if you needed to tell? So it's really giving children language for if something happened without even needing to necessarily be explicit about it initially, but also being comfortable about talking about their bodies as if it's the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah, so even if it might be uncomfortable, begin the conversation. It's very worthwhile. Colette, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You can find more tips from Colette and other great advice. Follow The Table TV Show on Instagram and Facebook.
Are you ready to be challenged and inspired? Well, our guest, Lisa Stevenson, who is a global speaker, leadership consultant, and success coach, is the founder of the global Australian-based consulting firm Who Am I Projects and the author of the book Read Me First. Over the years, she has worked with some of the biggest global names, CEOs, elite athletes, and entrepreneurs. And now we are more than blessed to have you today here with us in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we are really excited. The girls are loving you.
We may have already been having some fun.
Maybe just a little bit. But we save some for our viewers.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, you've worked with so many people in the past, so many elite athletes and, you know, with CEOs. And I want to know about this idea of being a success coach. How does that translate into us as moms, you know, this idea of success?
Yeah. Well, the great thing about success is that it's personal, and success is not about the job we do or whether we're a mum or not a mum or whether we're an athlete. It's all of us. So I think what can happen is when we become a mum, or even when we just get on a particular career path, we feel like we're on it and we're in it, and we don't often stop to kind of go, hang on, you know, is this really what my version of success should be, or is it what my parents suggested when I was younger, or what my friends say to me? So taking time to really think about what success means for you is important.
Yeah, I know you have this idea about asking yourself, where am I right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, because we're all in a story, aren't we? And we're all quite unique, and there's different experiences that we have. And there's the story of where we've been and the experiences that we've had before. And there's the where we are now and also where we want to go. So if we don't take some time to really consciously think about what's working in my life now, what's not working, how do we work out what our next steps are?
Yeah. I think that's really important, because we often will think so much about the future, like where are we going, or we lament so much about things that have happened in the past. We beat ourselves up over it. So, I think it's a freeing concept to think about, like, where am I right now?
Yeah, and also celebrating what's going well and appreciating what's going well in my life, and also quite consciously working out what's not working. And
That's confronting, isn't it?
yeah,
It's kind of annoying.
Lisa, something about life can throw some really unexpected things in your way. Mums can become single mums. You know, so like, how do you reframe your life when life gets turned around completely unexpectedly?
Yeah, I thank you for that question, because I think it's a really important one. Really, you know, bad things happen to good people, and life is full of surprises. I don't think very many of us get out of it without having some heartbreak or trauma or some grief of some kind. And, you know, what's kind of amazing about that is that we are so often stronger and smarter than we know about ourselves. And so there's something that's really important in stopping to go, who am I going to be in this? Because it's easy to be awesome when life is great. And, you know, when it's all sorted. And we do have those times where, you know, life feels like it's where we want it to be. But when it's hard and the unexpected happens, or we're in crisis, who am I going to be in this? Who do I choose to be? What is it I'm consciously going to learn? And what meaning am I going to give this experience?
So you're saying, rather than roll with the flow, go with the flow, what do we do?
Yeah, so I think that's our natural instinct. So I understand that happens. We keep going, particularly mums, you know, we're often in a bit of survival mode. We're really good at, you know, being strong and keeping it together for others. But the consequence of that is that we're not stopping to take care of ourselves and to work out what work we need to do in ourselves to be better, stronger, kinder, you know, more fulfilled, and to use that experience so that, you know, the wiser version of us gets to keep evolving.
So what are some of those questions that mums who are going through a crisis or a change should be asking themselves for, you know, moving forward?
Yeah. Oh, so many.
Yeah.
So many. How long do we have? Yeah. I think the first one, and this might sound a bit strange, but a really important question is, what do I value? You know, what is it that I most value and how can I anchor myself in that? So is it about my family? Is it about my health, career? What are the things that I know are super important to me and how am I going to give those things the time that they need for me to work on them? So what do I value? Also, do I know what my next chapter might look like? You know, just taking some time to be a bit creative, a bit playful, which can be hard when you're in crisis.
It can be really hard because you're just trying to get through that crisis.
Survive.
I mean, you're sleep deprived and, you know, just trying to get your hair in a ponytail is a challenge. But, you know, taking some time to get out a blank piece of paper and just write out some words or some ideas, have some conversations with people that might be able to give you different perspectives.
So build your village.
I liked the word you used, a tribe.
Yeah.
So explain the tribe.
Yeah, I love talking about this. Stop me when you're bored. So, you know, we think about tribe as being our family and friends and people that we care about, and that's all lovely. But I think if you're in a time where you're wanting to change something in your life or you're in crisis, surround yourself with people that you've deliberately sort out. You know, if you think about an elite athlete, when they're heading into high performance, they get their strength and conditioning coach, their masseur, their psychologist, their coach, their training partner, nutritionist, naturopath, you know. So if you were going to surround yourself with a tribe of people to support you in being the very best version of you, who would those people be? You know, would this be a good time for you to have a mentor? For example.
How do you find those people? How do you seek them out?
I mean, the nice, easy answer to that is that there are so many amazing people in this world. You know, there are people who absolutely want to share their experiences, but also ask. You know, go out and...
that can be hard too.
It's
got to be done.
Confronting.
Absolutely confronting. Am I worth it? Will they want to support me? Why would they do that? You know, but if we can put that stuff to the side and think, who is it that's going to tell me the truth, hold me accountable, really honour the possibilities of me, and how do I have conversations with those people?
I love how you said honour the possibility of me. Like, that's so lovely.
It's really looking into what my traditions are, what my habits are, what I want for me, isn't it?
Yeah. And only you know those things, but sometimes we need some help with people asking us high quality questions and provoking our thinking. Yeah.
I love the fact that with all the wisdom that you have, you're giving away our some books to our viewers.
Yes, of course.
You know, sometimes we can get so stuck in a rut, we get paralyzed by fear and indecision. And Lisa, I want to thank you so much for challenging us, for inspiring us, and for actually helping us to realize that we need to be held accountable as well. Lisa's generously giving away 20 copies of her book, Read Me First, to the first 20 people who email us at hello@mumsathetable.com. You know, this has been one of my absolute favorite episodes because I love to laugh with you ladies and find ways to challenge ourselves. If you could give our viewers just one quick thing to say, one quick thing, what would you say?
Yeah, honour the future version of you, that woman who is amazing and capable, and, you know, tap into the wisdom of what you're really capable of.
Thank you so much. We thank you so much for joining us today. Don't be shy. Leave us a comment in the comment section, and you can follow us on social media. Looking forward to seeing you next time. God bless and goodbye.